Hi, all, Larry Feldman with a lesson on using for loops in Python. And the easiest way to explain for loops is with a few examples. So let's launch idle and then open a new file, which we will then save as. We'll give it a name and save it to the desktop. And let's put in a few comments. The title, the author name, and the date. So a basic for loop looks like this. For I in range, let's say 0, 50, comma 5. Actually, let's say 0, 10, 1, colon, print I. What this means is that I is going to start at 0, it's going to increment by 1, and it's going to stop when I gets to 10. Now when I gets to 10, we will not go into this print statement here. So this endpoint is never hit. It's tested, but once the test fails, we don't go into the for loop. So let's save that file and run it. And you'll see what happens is that we are printing 0 through 9. As expected, we didn't print the 10. And there are a lot of ways to demonstrate this. Let's say for j in range. So we can change the variable. Let's say 1 to 50 and use 5 here. Print j. Let's save and run. Now notice what we're doing here is first we're printing the for loop I from 0 through 9. Then after that we're printing the next for loop where we're printing j. It starts at 1, it increments by 5, and it stops before it gets to this end value of 50. Now we can also count backwards. For k in range, 30 to negative 5, let's say negative 2. Print k. Let's save it and run. So now we have 3 for loops running. We've already discussed the first 2. Let's look at the last one. It starts at 30 and it's decrementing by 2. That's why we have a negative 2 here. So it's going from 30 to 28, etc. It gets all the way down to negative 4 and it stops printing before it gets to negative 5. Okay, let's expand on this a little bit. I'm going to close the shell and let's erase our code so far. And I want to show you how you can use variables with for loops. So let's say we have start equals 3, stop equals 100. Let's say increment equals 7, for example. And we can say for I in range, start, comma, stop, comma, increment, colon, print I. Let's save it and run. So notice what happened is the for loop took the variable values that we set up right here. Start was 3, stop is 100, and increment is 7, and then it performed or executed the for loop. So it printed from 3, starting at 3, all the way up to 94. Remember, it's not going to print the stop value of 100, but it did increment by 7, which is exactly what we expected. Okay, let's do an application of a for loop that might actually help us with a math problem. Let's say that we want to add up numbers in a sequence, and let's say that the sequence looks like this. It starts with a 2, and then we multiply every number by 3 to get the next number. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 3 is 18, 18 times 3 is 54, etc. This is actually called a geometric sequence. Or actually, more precisely, it's a geometric series since we're adding the terms. Now, how can we use a for loop to find the sum of, let's say, the first 10 terms? Well, let's define a variable called number, and we'll set that equal to 2. And that's where we start. Number equals 2. And let's define another variable. Actually, in this case, it's a constant because it's not going to change. But we're going to use a descriptive name here. Common ratio equals 3. And that's the multiplier that we're using. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18, etc. And now we're going to define a variable called sum, which will hold the sum up to any point. So after we add 2 and 6, we get 8. But then when we add 18, we get 26, etc. So we have to initialize the sum to be 0. Now let's write our for loop. For I in range, let's say 0 through 9, we're going to step or increment by 1, colon. First thing we'll do is we'll print the number. Then we're going to say sum equals sum plus number, which I'll explain in a second. Then we're going to say number equals number times common ratio. I'll explain that also. And then when we're done with the for loop, we're going to print sum equals sum. Okay, so let's go through this real quickly. For I in range 0 through 9, so I is going to start at 0. First thing we're going to do is print the number. Now the number is initialized to 2, so we're going to print a 2. Then the variable sum, the new value of sum, is the old value of sum plus the current number. So the old value of sum is right here. It was initialized to 0. We add the number, the current number, which was 2. Now our new value of sum is 2. Then we generate the next number. The next number is the previous number times the common ratio. So let's think about that. Number at this stage was 2. We multiply it by common ratio, which is 3, so we get 6. That becomes the value of number. Then we go back up to the top of the for loop. I gets incremented to 1, and we print the number. Now number is now 6. The sum is the old sum plus the current number, so the sum becomes the old sum, which was 2, plus the 6, which is 8, and now the sum is 8 because we've added the first two terms. Then we generate the next number, and we continue in this fashion. So let's take a look at this by running it. Notice on the right in the shell, we print 2, 6, 18, 54, etc. We've generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 terms, and the sum, if we did it right, is 19,682. Now, let's drop this number down a little bit so that we can test easily without a calculator whether we're on the right track. Let's change that to 3 and save it. And then when we run, notice we just print the first 3 terms in the geometric series, 2, 6, and 18. According to our program, the sum is 26. 18 plus 6 is 24, plus 2 is 26. So it appears as if it's working fine. And that's kind of a good lesson in programming. You want to test a variety of cases because this program could be expanded to add up any number of terms, and you're going to want to try and test it with many different situations, many different numbers of terms to make sure that it's performing accurately and that you don't have any bugs. Anyway, that's just a general overview of for loops. We're going to be using them quite a bit going forward, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.